You managed to find your way here.
You didn't make it easy. That encrypted navigation software you sent me almost fried my biochip.
Apologies, but it was necessary in case we were to be intercepted.
I made sure that wasn't a possibility. And apologies for the near flatline. I forgot that straight tech could be so antiquated.
I'd rather spend the eddies to upgrade my body. Top-of-the-line biochip won't help crack open heads.
I believe that you are at your peak. That is why I hired you. I don't often hire street mercs for jobs as important as this, but I've heard word that you're efficient and, most importantly, discreet.
Won't get a lot of work without those traits. So is this all of us?
The last one has just arrived.
How are we all doing tonight? Someone express order some grade A lead?
Why is he here in person? I thought we ordered the weapons to be sent here discreetly.
Well, you think you can use my gear to raid our Arasaka facility, and I wouldn't want to tag along?
You told him.
I want to keep this operation small, but we cannot just have one person sneaking into a heavily guarded facility. He is also very proficient with the weapons he sells, which will be helpful to us.
I'd be a total gonk to pass up the chance to use these babies in a job like this.
You're a gunk for taking this job in the first place. This ain't some Tiger Claw base raid. We're trying to clep from the top corp in Night City here.
That's the point. I'd be a legend to my clan if I brought back some Gato tech.
Speaking of tech, what are we pinching from Arasaka?
I've been approached by Kang Tao to ensure the seizure and delivery of the newest smart weapon Arasaka has developed.
Well, you're mighty brave, thinking you can just steal from your employer like that.
Mighty ambitious, you might say. Should this mission succeed, I will not only receive a generous payment from them, but also earn a high position within their ranks.
My, don't you shoot for the stars.
And my involvement can ensure this for me as well.
Yeah, little Miss Deckhead here is gonna reap the rewards from her comfy office while him and I do all the dirty work.
Excuse me? This is Arasaka we're talking about. There are better firewalls in their vending machines than the banks. One error slips by me and my brain is fried, while you two get flatlined faster than a cyber psycho.
Such a way with words for someone who spends all their time jacking it. I trust the boss here because Arasaka wouldn't waste time in trapping some random edge runners like me and the Nomad here, but how do I know you ain't some net pig?
I've worked with her a few times in the past. She's very reliable and trustworthy.
If anything, we should be suspicious of you two. You could easily be with the NCPD yourselves or just report us for a reward.
I think the body currently stashed in my trunk can vouch for my rep. Maybe you want to join him in
That
there.
is enough! I will not have this mission jeopardized by a lack of cooperation. I suggest you get yourselves in order, or we all suffer the consequences.
Don't worry, I can play the mature role here. I'll make sure our teammates get through every security system Arasaka has in our way. And if they do try anything, I'll be watching their every move through the security cameras.
And you'll watch as we get through this gig without a hitch. And by the way, you know how to use those toys of yours?
Trust me, darling, ain't no one knows their stock better than me. And since I like your spunk, I'll even let you try out my newest piece.
See now, this is teamwork.
What about Smasher, sir?
Whoa, you mean Atom Smasher? I thought he was a myth you life was made up to keep us out of the city.
He is unfortunately very real. He rarely leaves the president's side, however. Should this operation remain discreet, I doubt he will be at the facility.
Too bad. Wanted to see how I measured up against the guy who went head-to-head with Silverhand.
You sure got some confidence.
More like ego.
More than enough to spare, Choom.
This operation will begin in 4 days. First half of your payments have already been deposited, and you'll get the rest upon delivery. Everyone must be ready.
Don't sweat it. No, with a team like this, there might finally be a happy ending in Night City.
Though it may have had a rocky launch in the beginning, Cyberpunk 2077 may be one of the most dense and intricate games that I've ever played. It's like GTA meets Fallout, both in terms of the chaos you can ensue, as well as the underlying themes of capitalism destroying the humanity of the populace. What is it about carjacking and shooting Uzis that make people go full Guevara? The cyberpunk setting is a common one in science fiction, a futuristic but still poverty-stricken setting that really emphasizes disparity between classes, but with robots and neon signs. It also typically dives into the ideas of technological humanism, i.e. the merging of man and machine, and what that does to the soul. If you downloaded your consciousness into a hard drive, is that you, or just data that's learned to think like you? As I grow older and more existential about the media of my very existence, media that touch upon these themes really speaks to me. That's most likely one of the reasons that got me so immersed in the story and world of Cyberpunk 2077. Admittedly, it's not breaking new ground in terms of adding to the cyberpunk genre. Hell, it's based off a tabletop game, which from the rules I've read, doesn't seem very fun to play. Still looks more appealing than Vampire the Masquerade. 2077 takes a setting and lore that's already been established and makes it its own. It especially plays heavy with the themes that the cyberpunk genre thrives in. One such theme I grasped onto really was the futility of choice, especially when faced with overwhelming control. It's a theme explored heavily in video games. Because they are the most interactive form of media, it's become an interesting idea to play with. Even though you seem to control the characters and outcome of the story itself, how much control do you really have? Now take this idea and apply it to your real life. Sure, you can control your actions and your choices, but how much of that is of your own free will and not influenced by the powerful who stand above you, or even the cultural norms of the society you're born into? I'm here to show you how Cyberpunk 2077 uses its story, setting, and characters to portray this. So check into the net, folks. Let's get a little Nova.
Sup, chooms? Welcome to Night City. They call it the place where dreams come true. That used to be Disney World before the new United States decided to cut out Florida. But don't worry, it'll still be a thriving island once the theme park gang wars come to an end. Night City is a libertarian's wet dream, a society owned completely by the free market. It has everything to offer: brain dances, rock concerts, street violence, the crushing weight of knowing you're under the thumb of major corporations, and that no matter your actions against them, it will never cleanse this city of its oppression and evil. And motherf***ing Delmin!
I see no reason why you should be using expletives.
Cyberpunk 2077 is a game about a lot of things. On the outside, it can seem like a power fantasy of you being a badass merc who goes around town solving crimes, capping snitches, and getting those eds. While you're totally free to play Cyberpunk this way, it can be hard to ignore the overall story going on and the themes it touches upon. And all this takes place in the grand setting of Night City. Imagine if Baltimore, Blade Runner Los Angeles, and the concept of human greed formed a weird polycule and gave birth to this Temple of Doom. Night City was founded by some dude who most likely would have been Elon Musk in this timeline, but competent. He had a bunch of corporations decide to build their own city, free of violence and corruption. When they ran into a bit of financial trouble, who else do they bring into this crime-free corporate paradise but the mob? Okay, he might actually be like Elon. So yeah, this city free of government oversight and control, ran by soulless megacorporations and under mob control for a number of years, is not the best environment to pursue your ambitions. Nevertheless, that's the goal for some. Namely V, our vessel into this dystopian world. V, like most video game characters, is a blank slate. Their morality and goals are mainly shaped by us. However, CD Projekt Red takes a Bioware approach of having us choose a background for our V. There are 3 unique backgrounds that we can start out in. Honestly, they don't really affect the game too much, besides some unique dialogue options and side quests, but I feel they add just enough flavor to work off of to make your V unique to you. Also, these routes offer some perspective into how the culture of Night City operates, and the trappings many people from different backgrounds can find themselves in. Night City has a hierarchy. You have the corporate hierarchy of the rich and powerful that includes the almighty corporate owners and everyone under them. This is one you can find yourselves in at the beginning of the game. In the corporal life path, V can start off working for the megacorp Arasaka, who's a major force within the world and this game's story. This would be near the top of the pyramid. V is supposedly living the good life, literally riding high over the streets of Night City. They have clearly been well indoctrinated into this lifestyle, casually discussing promotions, corruptions, and war crimes.
It's me, Frank. We met during Icefall.
Tell me about the op in Cape Town.
Operation Cargo.
Arming local conflicts in Africa.
It was me. We dumped crates full of rifles into the ocean. They had to be pulled out using borrowed fishing boats. Same old circus, but hey, that's how wars are won.
Unfortunately, even with all the perks, you need to, as the boomers say, pay your dues, and this includes listening to the orders of your superiors, even when those orders are to assassinate someone who challenges your boss's masculinity, the most unforgivable of sins. V's clearly reluctant to do this, but their boss doesn't seem bothered one bit. If I, hypothetically of course, wanted to hire someone to plan my IRL stream snipe, and he looked a bit weary, I'd quickly take it back and claim it to be a team building exercise. But it seems like V's boss is so nonchalant about this because he knows V really doesn't have a choice in the matter. Can't snitch to the boys upstairs because V will probably go down with the bastard. Can't report it to the cops because I'm guessing the corporations that run the whole damn county might, own the police. It's not like V can say no because at best they face a generous severance package and at worst, a severing of their head from their body. Even when seemingly at the top, V knows all too well their powerlessness in the situation, so they have to go along with it. They attempt to hire an old merc friend to help them with this order. He refuses a job and plays Jiminy Cricket, telling V that they should do the same. V outwardly states that they don't have a choice in the matter. They actually do, but ironically, this choice is stolen from them when the target of this plan finds out and has V removed from the company and takes all their corporate swag. V is obviously distraught about having their livelihood stripped from them. Even though this lifestyle included backstabbing your colleague for a Christmas bonus, it seems like the safety provided them from poverty left them to only know that way of life. The merc friend says that this is actually a blessing in disguise and ensures V that they're now free to actually start living a life. So that's the origin of V from the top, but what about V from the bottom? The Street Kid life path is kind of a polar opposite to the corporate counterpart. In the beginning of the corporal life path, we see V looking into a mirror and vomiting from the stress of their job. Meanwhile, as a street kid, V looks into the mirror and fixes her broken nose without so much as a manly tear. V is now a painless street urchin who gets into fights and probably stays out past 1 AM. However, a major similarity with the corporal start is that they're again tasked with taking a shifty gig from an authority figure. This time, instead of obligation, V takes on this job out of empathy since they are attempting to erase the debt of their local bar owner. They are tasked with stealing the most expensive car in Night City, which I guess is just the owner's going gambling car. They are escorted by a fixer, a middleman with a lot of connections that hand out jobs to mercs. They're dangerous and well-respected figures, and Street Kid V still gives no shits, even when a gun is pointed in her face. I love this contrast from the corporal life path. Even though working for a corp supposedly gives you wealth and therefore peace of mind, you're in just as much danger as you are on the crowded streets. At least on the streets, the danger doesn't hide behind a tie and expensive yet tacky haircut. This V grew up in a place where making decisions for yourself is vital to survival. Being a yes man with no spine is a good way to get ran over, in every sense. V makes it to the car, but I guess this guy already called dibs, and threatens them to give it to him. The boys in Cyber Blue show up, and while they just want to arrest the duo, the corporal owner of the car wants them to disappear.
Waste of effort. I have no time to testify or play it on an investigation.
Suggesting we let him go, sir?
I suggest you toss them in the sea. Cuff link's broken so this trash doesn't float.
I guess no matter where you are in the pyramid, corporals still ultimately have a say in your fate. Luckily, the guy who spoiled our plan got us out of that sticky situation, and because we go to the same bar, we become BFFs. He decides to team up with us, and then maybe we can actually get some jobs done. So we saw what life is like near the top and the bottom of the Night City pyramid, but the third life path tells us to think outside the box, or pyramid. The Nomad life path has V start off outside of Night City. Nomads are clans who live outside of Night City and form communities that scrounge for resources to survive on and take on jobs. V is choosing to abandon this lifestyle and actually drive into the Viper Pit. Even though they come from the outside, they wish to make it big in a new setting. While the other two life paths were most likely born into this life, we have here the only V that actually makes the choice to start life in Night City. Jury's still out on whether it's a good option or not. They hope to pay for this new life by smuggling some contraband into Night City with the help of a Night City resident. It goes about as well as most other heists, foreshadow, but they manage to get away and get their funds. This life path is my personal favorite because I feel like it connects V to a first time player. V is a fish out of water who's experiencing Night City life for the first time. Most questions they would have are ones first-time players would have themselves, so we don't feel out of the loop. Street Kid and Corporal are better for seasoned players who are more familiar with the setting and therefore can express more knowledge. So these life paths are different on the surface, but all have connecting threads. V wishes for a better life, and after running into trouble from the corpse, decides to rise above their current station and try to make a name for themselves in Night City. And if you paid attention, this is all aided by their friend and confidant, Senor Jackie Wells. Jackie is V's right-hand man as V makes her way to the top of the heap in the first act of the game. He's basically V's mentor, giving them all the knowledge and connections to start a successful mercenary career. Dexter Deshawn, a big fixer, hooks the duo up with a huge gig to steal a rare piece of tech from the son of Arasaka's president. They form an airtight plan of the crew, and Jackie goes on about how they're finally going to make it to the big leagues and become legends in Night City. Yeah, you can see how this is gonna go.
I've been made.
Bug! So by the end of the heist, we got the tech, but Arasaka's after us and Jackie ain't looking too good. Because the tech's container was broken, Jackie had to put it in his head, but because his body is about to go under the recommended storage temperature, he gives it to V before heading to the great Casa de Blanco in the sky.
Can't stop digging Night City.
City like any other.
Nah, mano. Not just any other city. Legends are born here. It's important to have people you can turn to. You know, like family. Jackie Wells.
V.
Getting one of my good feelings.
About what?
About us. Sense a kind of chemistry, you know?
We make a good team, Jack.
I think you might be right.
See you in the major leagues, Jack.
So Dex is none too pleased that we have a powerful mega corporation nipping at our heels. Our only option is to leave Night City. Well, Dex's only option is to leave Night City. V's only option is to take a forever nap in a landfill. But V pulls a New Vegas and somehow survives a bullet to the head. A mysterious Arasaka employee saves V and takes him to a cyber doctor to heal them up. Once they recover, they learn what the piece of tech does in a very breathtaking way. So apparently the Arasaka Corporation are huge fans of Point Break, because the tech V and Jackie stole, and now resides in V's dome, is actually a chip containing the mind of everyone's favorite Christ allegory, Keanu Reeves. But it's not all it's cracked up to be. For one, Keanu Reeves is playing Johnny Silverhand, who's...
Stick some iron in your mouth and pull the trigger!
A bit much. Johnny Silverhand was an arrogant, narcissistic rocker bro from the 2020s who's kind of base for being anti-corp, but expresses it by nuking Arasaka headquarters with many civilian casualties. Little too Ted Kaczynski for my taste. Arasaka awards his accomplishment by using an experimental machine known as Soul Killer on him, turning his mind into data. This data was then stored on a chip, also called the Relic. Why the Relic was stored at a hotel is explained later, but for now all that matters is that thanks to the bullet in the head, the aforementioned chip is now slowly turning V into John Constantine, which threatens to wipe away their entire personality. How is this possible? Why, it's...
Nanomachine, son!
V isn't the biggest fan of starring in the Matrix Resurrection, so the goal of the game is to find a way to remove the chip from V's head before they die. Along the way, they meet a cast of wacky characters and get into all sorts of shenanigans.
You're V, yes?
Oh, fuck.
I can't explain every single story beat because there are just too many. This game is massive and filled with content, so I suggest you play it yourself. It's earned its place in my top 3 games of all time. That includes another game with themes of control and anti-corporate narrative, and a game that embraces a large corporate entity. I like variety. As we embark on this journey, we become more and more acquainted with the ins and outs of Night City. We rub shoulders with everyone from the mega rich to the scoundrels that litter the underground. You can play the game with blinders on, your sole intention being to save V, or you can go around a huge map doing gigs to earn money and maybe make Night City that much better of a place. But how much of this is ultimately fruitless? Like I said before, Night City may be free government control, but it does have leaders at the top. from the Megacorp execs to the bosses of the numerous gangs that reside within the city. These people are living a good life and wish for that to remain. That means if someone is stirring the pot, then they're going to face some heavy resistance. Everyone has their place and role to play. Trying to change the fate that Night City is giving you doesn't often result in a happy ending. This is no more apparent than the story of Evelyn and Judy. Judy and Evelyn belong to the lower rungs of the Night City pyramid. Judy is a member of the Mox, a collective of sex workers and punks who band together for protection. Evelyn is a doll, a sex worker that literally surrenders her mind and body for her job to satisfy clients. Evelyn is the one who Dex got the job from to steal the chip. You meet her early on for details regarding the job and to observe the apartment via a secretly recording program that Evelyn managed to take inside. This software is honestly a marvel, but like most of history's greatest inventions, it's mostly used for porn. Evelyn was hired by a gang to just scout the location of the chip, but Evelyn went over their heads and decided to organize a heist of the chip and sell it to a corp. We all experience how well this plan went, and when V tries to contact her for information, she's nowhere to be found. They team up with Judy and attempt to locate her. So I'm going to be honest and say this part of the game is legitimately disturbing. After I finished this quest, I had to put down the game for 2 days because it hit me so hard. So hard content warning regarding SA and suicide. I'm not going to go too in depth, but I feel the story is important in showing what happens when someone attempts to better their circumstances in Night City. I'm putting time codes here regardless. Turns out the gang Evelyn initially worked for found out about her heist and fried her brain. She was kept and abused while unconscious by her manager, before being tossed over to a shifty doctor, who also had his way with her, before giving her to a group that makes black market videos. I'm gonna let you use your imagination for that one. V and Judy rescue her, but she is clearly overwhelmingly traumatized. Judy decides to take care of her while V goes off to do more missions. It's a bit later when V gets a word call from Judy and finds Evelyn after deciding she just couldn't handle what she's gone through. Evelyn is just one of the many who are chewed up and spit out by Night City. Sure, she wasn't the straightest nail on the board, but all she wanted was a better life for herself, and did the work to accomplish it. Her job requires her to give up full autonomy for paying customers while scum like her boss let abuse flourish. She just wanted to escape this life. She thought she could play the game that Night City encourages and rise above her station, and she paid the ultimate price for it. This enrages Judy, who decides to try and do something about the way Evelyn's place of work operates. This place is called Cloud and is run by a gang known as the Tiger Claws, and Judy's plan is to take a ragtag group and stage a coup to have the dolls run the place themselves. This plan is honestly half-baked, but she does attempt to get some insider help from a manager named Maiko. She initially refuses with some unwarranted attitude.
Tiger Claw bosses rule this place. Know how much I mean to them? About as much as you two and your problems mean to me. Read negligible.
B-I-C-T-H.
Before eventually joining the cause. V does her usual thing and breaks into the home of Cloud's owner. But Maiko goes over all their heads and offers the other gang leaders an opportunity to remove the current owner and have her take charge. There are various decisions to be made during this part, but ultimately it comes down to whether you leave Maiko in charge or the dolls. Even though she's pulling the wool over all their eyes, Maiko has a point. Kicking the Tiger Claws out will not keep them out. The dolls are not a strong, well-armed battalion, so it's unlikely they can protect themselves from the inevitable retribution. If she makes a deal with the Tiger Claws, she can ensure Cloud's safety. Judy is of course furious about Maiko's grab for power because it undermines her attempt to give the dolls their autonomy back. You can follow Judy's optimism and deny Maiko this spot, or decide Maiko would be a better fit. Judy is either overjoyed that the plan went successfully and appreciates V's trust in her, or bitter at V for siding with Maiko despite her logical argument. She isn't totally done with V this side of Maiko, as long as they don't accept a bribe from her. She even shares some optimism saying that Maiko may have had a point and can run Clouds for the better. Later on, V meets Judy at an old lake house where they get an update after the decision. Turns out neither decision leads to a satisfying ending.
Maiko's holding all of Clouds at gunpoint. Decides every little thing, apparently.
But?
No but. Talk to the dolls, they don't see any change. Everything's just like it was before. Got a feeling everything we did was wasted effort. Clouds has gone to shit. Tiger Claw No Next took revenge for Hiromi and the rest. There was a firefight. Tom's dead. Roxanne barely got out alive. House is closed until further notice. I'd rather not talk or think about it.
Judy laments that what they did was all for nothing. And is that true? They fought tooth and nail just to try and do better by the dolls at Clouds. We wanted to make sure that another Evelyn never happened again. V and Judy can even take revenge on the manager who abused Evelyn, but like Judy says,
Thought I'd feel more. Be satisfied.
Unfortunately, no good deed goes unpunished in Night City. The small can take on the giants and even score a win, but Night City always ensures those in power stay in power and punishes those who threaten that. There are plenty of stories in the game that have happier endings, but they're the ones that don't go against what Night City is about. V can successfully make the lives of individuals better, as long as it doesn't challenge those who keep Night City running. Judy was right in wanting to help those who were cast away by society, but unfortunately she overestimated her ability to grab at power, just like Evelyn. She ultimately decides to leave and encourages V to do the same. While V is also too well aware of the horrors in Night City, there's something they still have to fight for. So Evelyn's fate, while tragic, does lead V to a dead end on their search for a way to save themselves. They do have two other leads that could get some answers, that being kidnapping the guy who made the chip, and getting help from Johnny's ex, who's now a super powerful AI. I'll explain this later. Along the way, Johnny pops up now and then to give his 2 cents and kinda just causes V a headache. I mean, I love his smoldering good looks and punk attitude, but V clearly doesn't.
The woman looked around. Something weighed on her. Maybe it was my gaze.
Keep this up, I'm a fucking puke. Narrate that.
As the game progresses, the missions that we take on reveal more and more of Johnny's real personality. Any armchair psychiatrist will say that the hardened rocker boy aesthetic that Johnny puts on is a front to avoid true vulnerability. Throughout the game, Johnny is crass, uncaring, and literally the opposite of our wholesome King Keanu Reeves.
You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking.
The first glimpse of him we get is through a flashback of him blowing up Arasaka HQ and dying, so it gives us and V the impression that Johnny is just some lunatic who can pull off leather pants. Though he might have the right to be bitter. He literally pulled off one of the greatest acts of defiance, terrorism, in history, and all he has to show for it is having a copy of his mind owned by the very company he swore to destroy. Arasaka literally owns his soul now, but V helps set him free. This could partially be why Johnny starts to warm up to V as the story progresses.
Stick some iron in your mouth and pull the trigger.
V finds a gang who initially hired Evelyn, and the reason they wanted Johnny's chip in the first place was because they wanted him to make contact with Alt, Johnny's ex-friend, who was killed by Arasaka and made into an AI. This Johnny flashback we view shows us why Johnny was so gung-ho about nuking Arasaka HQ. It wasn't just that Johnny hated how the corpse ran the world, they also personally wronged him, which was the last straw. The gang turns out to be another dead end, but I get the satisfaction of having their brains fried.
That's for Evelyn, you goddamn gonks!
So our last hope is finding the guy who designed the chip in the first place and see if he knows a way to shut it down. With the help of Johnny's old partner in crime Rogue, 15K flushed down the toilet, and... we find a guy whose name is Hellman. Turns out there's no way to remove the chip since it's meant to possess those who install it. Hellman also warns that the takeover process is gradual and insidious. As it progresses, and V is slowly taken over by Johnny's mind, they might actually start to agree with him and follow his way of thinking.
Have you noticed the construct's influence on your decision-making? You will start doing things that were once unthinkable, at least to your old self. And you know exactly who he was. A fanatic. A terrorist.
At least Johnny never whored himself out like you.
Are you defending him? Or is that Johnny speaking now?
I was just starting to warm up to Johnny, but based on what Hellman said, I began to doubt whether V was agreeing with Johnny out of their own free will, or that they are becoming Johnny. Johnny isn't maliciously taking over V, he's just as helpless as he finds himself in someone else's body. They both have no choice in the matter. Our only way out of this mess is to find a way to remove the chip, and we're running out of time. When all seems hopeless, it's actually Johnny who offers support. After a bad episode of the chip overriding their mind, Johnny takes V to a seedy motel where he once stayed at after abandoning the Corporal War. Well, that's another one for the Why Johnny Hates Corporals board. He swears by V that he won't do them wrong, and that when the time comes, he'll happily be wiped in order to save V. This is one of the moments that cements their relationship. Johnny gives V his old dog tags as a token of his promise to them. It displays his real name, Robert John Linder. Robert signed up for the military and had a front row seat to the violence, death, and corruption that corps leave in their wake. He eventually deserted, and changed his name to reflect the arm that his time under the corporate control left him, deciding to make it a symbol for his stand against the corporations. The corps took everything from him. They took the friends he fought alongside, his arm, Alt, and then eventually his life. Now they even have a copy of him to imprison. Johnny was willing to die for the cause, but Arasaka denied him even that. They were fine having him die for their cause, but as soon as he acted against them, they denied him death, instead opting to make him a science experiment. I can see Johnny not taking too kindly to this. He now not only wants V to live, but to finally know peace. Also, he makes V promise to kill Atom Smasher, the cyborg that got him captured in the first place, and after watching Edge Runners, I fully agree with him. V agrees, trusting Johnny slightly more. On the way to fulfill this promise, Johnny asks V to take control of their bodies so he can talk to Rogue into joining them, killing Atom Smasher. Here is the fork in the road for V and Johnny. V was warned that Johnny might convince him to give full control, to the point where V would never come back. Giving Johnny the driver's seat doesn't guarantee that he'll give the wheel back. But V recalls his promise and gives him a chance. Then Johnny immediately abuses it.
We have to pay the price!
But turns out this night on the town was to gather information on Smasher, so I guess he can be trusted, he's just gonna be an asshole about it. He also got Rogue involved, and V can help them reconnect. Eventually, Rogue gets cold feet about Smasher and Johnny, so she leaves him and V high and dry. But this leads us to where Arasaka dumped Johnny's body. It's in a dark, polluted oil field. While earlier conversations had V and Johnny grow closer as a duo, this is where they form their bond. Johnny lets his guard down and confides in V on some of his regrets of his past, especially how he treated those close to him. This persona he built up was obviously to protect himself, but also the people he loved. He believed that he would one day be a target of Arasaka because of his music, so much so that he believed they kidnapped Alt just to get to him. But this was untrue. They wanted Alt because she was a badass netrunner who was going to change the city. Him losing Alt must have been both a troubling and humbling experience, since it made him realize how small he was in the grand scheme of things.
What did I achieve shouting chipping in to a bunch of angry, pimply kids?
Johnny could have paraded around in his indie band playing dive bars, and Arasaka wouldn't so much as file a noise complaint. Alt was one of the best netrunners in the world, and a relationship with Johnny was purely incidental. So Johnny's motivation for blowing up Arasaka was revenge for Alt, but also a way to actually spin the face of the Corp. This kind of speaks to some sentiments shared in real-world activism. The sensible of us can agree that corporations are the reason for the vast majority of our problems that we face. They have the advantage of money and influence, so it's going to be hard to knock them down. There's also the more action-oriented approach that can range from demonstration to acts of terrorism. These can get more immediate results, but it's a coin flip since you risk innocent lives, much like Johnny did, and the corporations can spin it in a way that makes them seem like the victims. There's a balance to maintain, and I wouldn't call Johnny a balanced man. He went from one end of the spectrum to the opposite end without giving so much thought towards what he could do towards the middle. In his defense, Night City is far from a place of grace. He realized how insignificant he was in the grand scheme of things, and so he made the only choice he thought he had, to go out a legend and leave a stain on the face of Arasaka. Or so he had hoped. This unmarked grave gives him doubt that it was all for nothing. He wanted to do good in his own way, and become a legend or maybe even a martyr. All he got was a drink in some underground bar named after him, the only memento of his legacy. This may all sound pretty defeatist, but Johnny and V give each other something that neither the Corps nor Night City could provide. Hope. At this point, all seems lost for V to save themselves, and Johnny is beside himself on whether he could change. This conversation leads him to lean on each other for genuine support, something we all need in our lives when we face genuine doubt. That's something no corporation could provide, no matter the claim.
Of all the heads I could have popped up in, hella glad it was yours.
Arasaka took Johnny's life twice. Once when he got disillusioned and changed his identity, and the other when he made an engram of him. This hard outward exterior was ironically given to Johnny by the corpse, and it cost him everything in the end. V is offering him a chance to become something other than what Night City and the corporation built him up to be. They're offering him hope, and most importantly, an actual choice. And this is one where he makes the right decision. We can continue on some Johnny side mission shenanigans, but I'll leave that for you all to discover. V is running out of time, and an offer from the devil herself has come to their door, and it's hard to know how much of a choice we really have in the matter. So throughout the story of the game, they actively encourage you to be antagonistic towards corporations. V does have a corporation in their back pocket. A major character in the game is Goro Takemura, bodyguard of the Arasaka president, who doesn't seem very good at his job. He betrays the corporation because he rightly suspects that the president's son is the one who killed him. He takes us out of the dump, steals our revenge kill, and saves us some Arasaka assassins. We plan and execute a few big missions with him that result in the capture of the daughter of the former president, Hanako Arasaka, to try and convince her of her father's true killer now that he's in charge of the company. Takemura to me is a very interesting character. Not only is he the embodiment of that stern, goofy uncle who tries his best to reply to your Gen Z sass, but he also proves to be a very loyal and trusted companion. Unfortunately, his loyalty is ultimately towards Arasaka, or more so the former president. I'd be repeating myself saying how much Arasaka sucks. By extension, you can guess how much the president of said company sucks. The kind of suck where he thinks he can nuke Night City because his son is throwing a hissy fit. Only Johnny can get away with that. Takemura is a good example of how bad companies can still include good people with a sense of honor. Unfortunately, it's too easy for corporations to take advantage of that, especially when they use some handy-dandy indoctrination.
I am from the slums of Chiba 11, Arasaka, selecting children, but only the clean ones.
Let me guess, so they could turn them into Corvo soldiers?
Exactly. When they chose me, I felt I had won the lottery. In the army, I was given everything I lacked before: discipline, regular meals, and when I proved I was gifted, an education, Arasaka gave me what no one else could. Values I could honor, live for. This was most important. You dirty your hands for money. I, in the name of principles.
We can guess that Arasaka didn't help people like Takemura just for the tax write-offs. But because of his sense of honor, Takemura feels indebted to the company and therefore would give his life, and probably V's life, to save it. It thankfully doesn't come to that, as we successfully kidnap Hanako, survive an Arasaka raid, and are approached by the heiress to make a deal. The deal is to help her take back her company from her brother in order to have her company save V's life. Of course, Johnny's against this, and at this point I'm pretty sure he's affecting my mind, because I couldn't agree harder. However, V looks at this with some objectivity. Arasaka developed a technology that's killing V. Sure, the inventor said they were a goner, but Arasaka had definitely developed it since then. Takemura proves that the entirety of Arasaka aren't scumbags, so maybe there's a non-zero chance that they won't double-cross V. We're also righting a clear wrong that was done in front of us, so in a sense, V is doing the right thing by bringing the murderer to justice. Some of you are probably screaming that I'm wrong, but some of you might be in line with this thinking. That's the enticement that corporations can offer. We can scream all day about how corporations are screwing everyone, including us, but when they knock at your door with a briefcase full of cash or a way to keep you alive, how long before your thoughts start to lean more positive? V isn't looking too good after listening to Hanako's proposal, and even Johnny admits that they're running out of time. Here's the final countdown. Depending on how you play the game and the relationships V's fostered, you're given multiple avenues that have a chance to save V. If you made it this far in the game, somehow hate it, and wanted to be over ASAP, there is the path of least resistance. V has let their experience within Night City consume them and decides to end things the quickest way that ensures no one else gets hurt. They know the long battle ahead will almost ensure collateral damage and doesn't even ensure their life. They're tired of the games, of fruitlessly trying to do right by others in a town where that's often not the way of things. No triumphant music plays like V has done something noble. No inspiring last words to friends or to the audience. Even though we have seen so many gruesome and bloody acts, We don't even see V commit their final one. Of course, rightly so, given the context. All we see is Night City as the camera slowly pans out. Night City as it always was, with no hint of care or remorse. This shows that the city has finally consumed V like it has too many others. Even when that gunshot finally rings out, it's almost drowned out by the pollution of noise that emanates from the city. In this ending, V has joined Evelyn and probably millions of others who were destroyed by Night City. The culture, the corpse, the game, it was all too much. After each ending, we get calls from various characters in the game about the ending we chose, and this one was the hardest to watch. You rarely get such raw, real-time reactions to something like this.
So V, how's the real afterlife looking? It as nice as they say. 'Cause down here, it's still shit. Hell, might even be worse than before. Just wish I had done more.
Hey, V. I was thinking about you the other day, and I thought I'd just to even think about, what happens when... Shit, I can't do this. I really hope there is an afterlife. Wanna know why? Because that means one day we'll see each other again. And I'm gonna make you wish you never met me. What were you thinking, huh? Or did you think about nothing at all? Is that it?
This game rightly kicks the notion of a self-righteous endgame because it does nothing but hurt those around you and saves time for those who wanted to hurt you in the first place. Hell, you don't even get an achievement out of it because there's nothing to celebrate. I know it's taboo to say that any decision made in the game is wrong choice, but if I had to pick one, it's this, and I think CD Projekt Red agrees with me. So maybe V should just take the deal with Arasaka then. After all, this is the most logical way that ensures the highest probability of success, right? Johnny of course is heavily against this, saying they cannot be trusted. He's not even along for the ride, and your wingman becomes Takemura, if you saved him during the Arasaka raid. If not, Hellman is your wingman, and oh boy, does it make this ending even less fun. V joins Hanako, Takemura, and Hellman in taking back Arasaka. On the way, we discover that the president copied his consciousness into an AI before his death. Still not any less of a dick.
Is this to convince us? Magic trick.
マーヘッド、お前がミリテクとの全面戦争を憂慮していた時、私はこう言ったはずだ。お前には3つのものが欠けている。自信、知性、そして根性だ。
And now we gotta take the fight to good old Yorino boy. We find him moping in his theater kid attire, and it's hinted that we kinda fucked up. He was attempting to seize power and do what we were trying to do all along, take down Arasaka. So in the end, V was convinced to save the very company that got him in this mess in the first place. Hanako keeps her promise though and lets V hook up to Makoshi, the computer where they store all the engrams, in an attempt to disconnect their mind from Johnny's. They do so, but with a heart-wrenching scolding from Johnny. Here he ironically serves as V's conscience. After everything they've been through, I feel this is V just trying to convince themselves rather than Johnny. Before his ultimate departure, he reiterates a question Dex asked V in the first act of the game.
Remember what Dex asked you? Quiet life or blaze of glory?
Sure, I remember.
Shame you chose wrong. Damn shame.
How can a wrong choice be made when it feels like there wasn't a choice at all? V ends up in space to get the chip removed, and I'm just hoping their insurance covers it. After some time of V being tested on and slowly going insane, they're approached with a choice. Turns out, removing Johnny did not solve the whole problem. The chip had overridden so much of V that their body now sees their consciousness as an intruder and is slowly eating away at them. Leading manufacturer of tech in the world, folks. V can either accept this distressing news or take the plunge of Arasaka again. They can agree to have their mind copied like Johnny and be stored till they can find a proper vessel for them. This is shown to be possible since after we left Yorinobu, Hanako transferred their father's engram into him and pretty much possessed him. This caused a stir but brought Arasaka to new heights in success. Hellman actually digs his nose deeper in their rears and refers to them as gods who defy death. God, I hate you. Take this personally. So here V is again, choosing between death and a chance of life with Arasaka. They offer endless options, but only those that guarantee their benefit, and only the possibility of success for V. Honestly, both endings are hard on the soul. On one hand, V dies while only a copy of their consciousness is stored on a thumb drive, with their only hopes of resurrection being a pinky promise. The other has V accept her death and live the rest of their days with the fact that they helped this corporation become even more powerful and untouchable than ever before. So yeah, this ending sucks. Boo! I mean, the achievement is literally called the devil, and clearly not in a cool way, so we can have V place their bets elsewhere. Every other ending has V taking more agency over their ultimate fate. They say, fuck Arasaka, I'm doing this my own way. Nobody said we could only get to Mikoshi by asking nicely. After all, even if V doesn't make it, they can assure that they'll achieve their goal of being a legend Night City and give a black eye to Arasaka. V can decide to take on this mission by themselves, or put their faith in Johnny to get this job done. Either way, Rogue is invited to the party. She is unfortunately lost in the battle with Alma Smasher, but we managed to finally take him down and successfully link with Mikoshi with the help of Alt, who V is connected to it. Or there's a secret option that's only unlocked after saying specific dialogue to Johnny by his grave. This has Johnny suggest that you go in solo. This is a hardcore ending because a single death here makes the game end right there and then, but I find it the most fun gameplay wise and really puts some hair in your chest. Whatever you pick, V manages to get there without Arasaka and blissfully waits for their reward. Hell, Alt says it was done as soon as V hooked up to Mikoshi. Even though this feels more like the correct path, there's still some issues. Turns out Arasaka wasn't just phoning their promise in when he said that V was doomed to die no matter what. Even Alt can't repair the damage that's already been done to their body. However, the future looks pretty bright for old Johnny Boy. Since the changes made to V's body were for him, he can keep control of it. This would ensure V a sort of immortality, becoming one with the internet. Oh, the eternal hell that would bring. But of course, wouldn't get to enjoy it with the people they love. Another agonizing dilemma brought in front of us. What was the point of defying Arasaka when it feels like we get the same ending as joining them? The devil ending ensures V ends up isolated, caught between a rock and a hard place at the mercy of Arasaka. The choices in that ending were manufactured and only served their interest of a higher power. Now they have someone to back them up, push them to move on, and
never stop fighting.
It's bittersweet letting Johnny go. Though he's been the monkey on V's back, constantly nagging them and getting them to try the devil's lettuce, he was a source of support towards the end. He may not be the real Johnny, but he finally achieved what Silverhand might have wanted all along. And thanks to Alt being a super powerful A9 and everything, I'm sure he can still cause some trouble for the corpse. Letting V take back their body has them fulfilling their goal of becoming a legend in Night City and living the high life free of Johnny. When taking a trip to the afterlife, they're approached by a man who I had to watch like 5 Cyberpunk lore videos to understand. He wants them to go into space to steal some data from a Cowboy Bebop reference. You may think this is the most badass way to end this story, but is it? It's actually kind of bittersweet, because V's tone throughout the ending clearly doesn't reflect their status as a high-flying legend. They're kind of moping around, lost and just burning time to their inevitable death. It also seems like there's a Johnny-shaped hole in their heart. They got all they wanted, but what's the point if they have no one to celebrate with? This space mission could actually be a suicide mission. We don't know what old Blue Eyes here promised V as a reward, but it's probably a proposed way to save their life. So in this ending, V ends up ultimately unfulfilled by the goal they fought so hard for, and lost numerous friends along the way. I give it a 7 out of 10, honestly. Finally, there's what I consider to be the best ending, especially if you chose the Nomad life path. So I mentioned before someone who helps you in your mission to find Hellman. Well, you can actually go on other missions with her to help her clan out, as well as gain their trust. Finishing the questline unlocks the option to have them at your back while storming Arasaka. This ending is honestly so rewarding. The clan welcomes V into the fold as one of their own. While Night City hosts millions, it's a place where isolation affects everyone. Here, V can actually be part of a family, and family fights for their own. They charge into battle against the best Arasaka's got, with V leading them. There are some losses, unfortunately, none of them being Pan Am, so it's not a huge toll on your conscience. And the same events occur within Mikoshi. However, this time V isn't left in solitude. They choose to leave Night City with Pan Am, the Avocados, and even possibly Judy if they romance her and look elsewhere for a cure for V. The ending sequence where V steps out of their ship and breathes in fresh air for the first time in a while is breathtaking. V has finally escaped the rat race at his Night City, but made sure to leave a place a mess on the way out. They went in trying to be a hotshot, to rule the streets. However, to do that, they had to sacrifice so much. Too much. They finally realized that there is no winning in Night City, because there's no chance of a happy ending. In a game where you don't get a final say, the best choice is to leave the game altogether. There's no shame in it. Look at the people who won Night City. The soulless, greedy, unsympathetic horde who only rose because they perpetuate the grim nature of Night City. Night City isn't some living being that spews evil into its residents. Evil only exists because the people perpetuate it. In this ending, the Autocados give V something only Jackie and Johnny did. Hope. To me, this is the true ending. The only right choice in a game full of hard ones. You were never going to change Night City. Sure, you did some good, made some waves, but Night City is a vast ocean of evil and corruption. Every choice laid in front of you was no different than the final one offered by Arasaka. Shitty, and only benefits those in power. Here's your happy ending, because it's not in Night City. Life is full of tough choices. Hell, some say we don't even really have a choice. We live, then we shuffle around till we ultimately die. Every choice is meaningless because it only delays the inevitable. Kind of like how every choice within Cyberpunk 2077 is useless because the city will always be the same. Well, I'm not a pessimist despite everything I spouted in this video, so I'll give you a more charitable view on this discussion. V might have not have gotten everything they wanted, but in most of the endings they got what they needed. In every life path V can start out in, they're alone. It's not until Jackie shows up they can actually start living a whole life. There is no legendary invincible Merc V without Jackie. The missions they went on, the fun they had, the memories they made, that is what V needed. Maybe V wanted status because they wanted people around them. They wanted friendship, understanding, and intimacy that is nearly impossible to come by within Night City. But somehow V found people willing to stand by them. Some better than others, unfortunately, but people we know still make their choices in the end.
Rot in hell, Kusama.
The devil ending isn't just bad because Arasaka wins. It's the bad ending because V gives up on her friend's help to get better, and gives in to what Night City is all about, one's own survival at all costs. But in the other endings, V does something no one else should ever do in Night City. Trust others. But choosing to do this was what got them peace they were looking for and hope for their future. And V does make a difference in Night City. Maybe those small acts of kindness and heroism aren't going to make Night City into a shining beacon of valor, but the people they helped within Night City aren't going to forget their kindness and hopefully pass it on. Unless you play like a dick your whole run. Hopefully you at least made some Joy Toys some money.